I'm sure, like me, you love going to the beach. But have you ever thought about the precious animal species and environments that exist in the ocean? Hi, I'm Leanne Williams, and today we take a closer look at the deep blue sea.
Hi, my name is Bianca Engel. I am the Deputy Head of Education here at the Two Oceans Aquarium, and part of my job description is dealing with school groups and adult groups visiting us and sharing more information with regard to what we have displayed here at the aquarium. Now, biodiversity, what a big word, but we can actually break it down into two very smaller, simpler words. Bios, meaning life, and diversity, a synonym for that would be variety. And it's a variety of living animals and plants that we find both on land and in our oceans. And South Africa, strangely enough, is considered to be the third highest in terms of biodiversity. And why, you might say? Well, it's partially because of our oceans. We're very fortunate in that we're located in an area where we've got two oceans flanking our coastline and two very, very different sea currents, ocean currents. And those bring varying conditions along our coastlines. We have the warm Agulhas current bringing warm, clear, tropical water round past our east coast, as opposed to our cold Benguela current moving northwards along the west coast. In terms of marine biodiversity, we have about 12,000 known species of animals and plants along the southern coast or in southern Africa. Of that, 3,700 are found nowhere else in the world. They are endemic. And so that places a large responsibility on us as humans. We need to look after those animals and plants found in our ecosystems, because they in turn are part of a larger ecosystem which we are also part of. We eat fish, we eat lobsters, we eat oysters, and if the ecosystem from which those animals are changed, it would also affect the production of those animals in those areas. Overharvesting is one of the key areas in which we are threatening the biodiversity along our coastline. We have overharvested quite a number of our species to the point that they are considered to be threatened. And if we continue in this way, those animals would not be around for our children and our children's children to enjoy. So one of the key things that we need to look at is the kind of fish that we consume and the amount that we consume, and choose those that can actually handle overfishing. And there are some that can handle pressures that are placed on them. One such animal is the yellowtail, for example. And you can find out a little bit more about that if you grab yourself a SciFly card. It places those animals into three different categories: green, orange, and red. And I'm sure everybody understands those colors. We've seen that on a day-to-day basis. Green, go, if you think of it in terms of the robots. Orange, well, think a bit about what your choice is. And red, those animals definitely cannot handle the pressure that's been placed on them. The second way in which we are threatening these animals is habitat destruction. Because of the population of humans that are increasing, not only here in South Africa, but worldwide, they require more and more areas in which to live. And so we are encroaching more and more on these animals' habitat. And in some areas, these animals cannot deal with those changes that are occurring. The third is pollution, and pollution comes in varying forms. It could be the solid pollution, the plastics and papers and things that are just being discarded either along the side of the road and blows and ends up in the ocean, or actually discarded in the ocean itself. It can also mean chemical pollution that is discarded into the rivers and ends up in our oceans. And then thirdly, also oil pollution also affects some of our organisms along the coastline as well.
Hi, I'm Madeleine Carsons. I studied oceanography from Cape University of Technology. Currently, we're working at the Peter Stokes Centre in the waterfront, and that's for you guys is where the Gallas is docking at the moment, preparing for going to Antarctica and Marion Island again. Mainly, the SA Gallas serves as a transporter for equipment, personnel, food, medicine. In Antarctica, we have more research teams focused there. We have engineers, because you have to get your electricity and your power from somewhere. And then we don't only focus on the weather and the climate and all the marine life around Antarctica, but we're also looking at the radioactive rays and the cosmic waves coming in.
Signatories of the Antarctic Treaty, including South Africa, undertake to use the region only for peaceful and scientific purposes and to protect and preserve the environment. The South African base on Antarctica, Sinai 4, is built on a rocky outcrop peeping out of the snow. Scientists consider Antarctica and its surrounding islands as a huge living laboratory, an almost unspoiled window on global climate change, our planet's weather, and untainted biology. Microbiologist Jennifer Lee finds Antarctica a spectacular laboratory.
The majority of life that people expect to see in Antarctica, like penguins and seals, is in fact only in a really small ring right around the edge of the continent, close to the sea. When you come inland to Antarctica, the vast majority of the area is ice, but scattered amongst the ice you get these islands of rock called nunataks. And on these nunataks, if you look really hard and really carefully, you do find life. The organisms that live here, they can tolerate being frozen in the winter. So when it gets very, very cold, then their bodies freeze and they remain in sort of stasis. And then when the temperature warms up, they unfreeze and repair the damage that was done in the winter, and then they can start to grow again in the short summer months. Certain organisms are freeze avoidants, and they try and avoid getting frozen in the first place by having special antifreeze agents in their bodies, which allows them to go down to sub-zero temperatures and not become frozen.
With us in studio today, we have two young ladies involved in the field of marine bioscience. They are Rosemary and Megan. Welcome to the show, ladies. It's so lovely to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Megan, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
My name is Megan van der Bank. I'm originally from Cape Town. In 2004, I decided to pursue a degree in biodiversity and conservation biology at UWC in Bellville. Since then, I did my honors in fish parasitology and then pursued a master's in marine ecology. In April this year, I finished with that degree, and I'm currently looking for a job.
Wonderful. Sounds exciting. And you, Rosemary?
Hi, my name is Rosemary Eager. I'm currently working at the University of the Western Cape as a lecturer. I started my undergrad studies in '95, and then after completing my undergrad studies, I went to South Korea and worked there for 7 years. Coming back, I pursued my postgraduate studies. I completed my honors degree and then my master's degree, and I graduated at the beginning of this year.
Okay, excellent. And what made you decide to go into the field of science?
Well, I would say that for me, it was actually a trip to Knysna in grade 11. We had a year-end tour, and we went to go visit an oyster farm.
Okay.
So as a girl from Cape Town, who hasn't really traveled and seen the environment much, it was so interesting for me and made such an impression on me that I knew that I wanted to contribute to the environment and make a difference. And obviously I've always had a general interest in science, so the two came together and here I am.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yep.
And you, Rosemary, how did it all happen for you?
Well, for me, it was a toss-up between accounting and biology. And I thought, am I going to be stuck in an office for the rest of my life, or do I want to go out there and see what's out there? I chose the latter, and here I am today.
Wonderful. And why your specific interest in marine bioscience?
Well, originally I actually wanted to do physiotherapy, but I wasn't accepted for that, and I took the next best thing. I majored in botany and zoology, and during my studies, I then developed this passion for marine science. And yeah, I just loved the whole concept, so I just continued in that line.
And why do you think the field of marine bioscience is such an exciting one?
Because it's new every day. I mean, you can start a project today and you have something in your head, I'm going to do this or that, and it just grows. And there's always something new to learn, and something new to learn from someone else and from nature, so it's great.
Can you tell us about the research projects that you've been involved in, Megan?
For my honors, I was involved in a research project involving fish husbandry. It's basically culturing of fish, and its application is more in the fish farming industry. And I looked at a drug that treats fish parasites called praziquantel, and I worked out dosages that farmers can use to treat this infection for their fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And you, Rosemary?
Well, for my honors project, I was involved in a long-term study. Although honors is just for 1 year, I actually based my studies on previous data that were collected. So it was a long-term exclusion project where we excluded the dominant herbivore or grazer on a rocky shore, and we had little plots, and the paint actually excludes the herbivore from entering these plots. And then we looked at how these plots were affected. And around the plots, it would just absolutely be bare because the grazer just eats everything. But these plots, you had lots of algae growing in there. So that was basically my honors project.
Now, I know you've said that there's never a dull moment in what you're busy doing right now, but can you give us an idea of what an average day in your life looks like? The kind of activities you're involved in, what you do, why you do them. Rosemary?
At the moment, as I said, I'm lecturing, so the normal thing is just going to work, teaching your students, marking, preparing.
Yeah.
But whenever I get the chance, I go out with my supervisor if he goes and does field work, because one of my experiments that I did for my master's, we did not get any results. So one of the honors students this year, she actually repeated one of my experiments, but in the natural environment, because I did it at the Two Oceans Aquarium.
Yeah.
So you'd go 8 o'clock, leave campus and go to Cork Bay, and just being out there is a holiday on its own. Just the fresh air and, collecting your data, collecting samples, setting up an experiment. It's hard work, but when you get the results, it's just so much rewarding.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
And you, Megan?
Well, at the moment, my days are pretty laid back, but I'll give you an idea of what my days used to be like.
Okay.
I would get to varsity maybe at 8:30. I would first catch up, of the previous day's work. Then maybe I'll go into the lab, and I promise you lab hours can be from the morning till 9 o'clock at night. So that was a normal day. But these days, I have a lot of free time. At the moment, I'm working on some papers, basically scientific write-ups of my previous work, of my master's work. So I have a bit more free time. I can come in and go as I please, as long as I get, somewhere for the day.
Okay. And can you tell us what is marine biodiversity and why is it important?
Okay. I view marine biodiversity or marine science as the study of marine life, or the biology of marine creatures, whether plants or whether animals. And what's important is to realize that the concept encompasses so much more than the biology, but it also includes how they interact with their physical environment and the study of their physical environment, and also how they respond to factors such as, big factors such as climate change and pollution and that type of thing, environmental perturbations that take place, how they respond to that. So it's a very broad term, and it includes a lot of things.
And in your opinion, should we as Cape Townians be more aware of our marine environment, and why?
Definitely. I mean, so much of our environment consists of ocean, and a lot of people depend on the ocean for, to get their daily meals, to get by. So we have a responsibility, whether or not you directly depend on the ocean, you have an indirect responsibility to protect what we have. And I mean, Cape Town is so blessed to have, the ocean in Cape Town is just so spectacular, and it's just so diverse in marine life. We need to try and conserve what we have and protect it for future generations.
Rosemary, when we think of scientists, we think of a very isolated career. Is it so, or do scientists get to work in teams as well, especially in this field?
You have to collaborate and work as a team, definitely. For my master's, for example, I started setting up a caged experiment at Kalk Bay, and the project just grew. At the end of the day, I set up an experiment at Two Oceans Aquarium, where I had to work with the people over there. And then continuing, I ended up at Marine and Coastal Management doing an experiment with lobsters. It totally traumatized me, and I couldn't catch the lobsters, so somebody had to help me out. I took my husband along, and the guys over there, they were so helpful because I could not go close to the lobsters. Yeah. So definitely you have to work in a team, hear what's out there, and just bounce ideas off other people, and to make your work to be more credible and better, I would say. So you have to work in a team.
That's good. Now, you have gone into lecturing, but what are some of the other job opportunities that are available for students that are looking to go into this field?
Like the one facility.
You can help Megan.
Like the one facility, Marine and Coastal Management. Yeah. I think both of us would kill to get in there. Getting in there, and then you can still continue your studies, a PhD or whatever. But sea fisheries, CSIR, where else,
yes,
Megan?
You have the South African Aquatic Biodiversity Institute, SciAB, which also employs people. And there are Scion that is involved in more long-term research. And then there are various consultancies, of course. If you're more into marine management and environmental impact assessments and those type of things, then you'll go more into consulting than government work.
That's awesome. And what are, or just maybe give us one of the most exciting experiences that you've come across so far within this field that you're involved in?
Well, I would say the most exciting thing for me was going to sea for the first time. I've heard a lot of stories. I'd never been to sea before. I've heard so many horror stories about people throwing up all the time and, not being able to walk or not being able to do anything. And so just going to sea, it was on a foreign vessel, a Norwegian vessel, so and all the crew members and everyone were from Norway. And it was such an enriching experience for me because I got to interact with new people, foreign people, which does not happen every day for me. And I got to experience that feeling of being out in the open with absolute nothingness around you, which was perfect.
Wow, that sounds exciting. And you, Rosemary?
For me, very simple, just going out to Kalk Bay, being at the beach for the day, and sort of getting paid for doing that. It's the best feeling ever, just going into the water and just seeing what's out there. It's a whole new world out there. And I would tell my brother, for example, what my project is about. And he'd be amazed and he'd say, so there's actually life down there, And that is just so rewarding, being able to share what you've acquired, what you've learned, and just being out there in nature. It's just nice.
It's interesting that you just said that, because my next question was, what are people's responses to you when you tell them about, number one, what you've studied and what you currently do?
I think people think marine scientists are smart and they're so cool. And I think for me, I don't know about Megan, but you just think it's just one of those things. And I think at times you take for granted what you do because other people think it's so cool. But you know, when I'm out there, then I also think it's cool.
That's good.
Yeah, people have this kind of respect for you. They think you must be very smart to do marine science. But I think you just have to be hardworking.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now, Megan, you're a retired teenager, just like me, so I'm going to ask you this question. What are the subjects that learners should be choosing who really desire to go into this field of study?
Okay, you obviously need a background in science, biology, and a bit of maths, I guess.
Okay.
But you don't have to be an A aggregate student for math at all. You just need to get through and, you know, do good in it.
Okay. And how do you think that South Africa can benefit from this field of marine bioscience?
Well, we have a lot in South Africa to be proud of. We have a lot to conserve also. We have a lot going on in terms of overfishing and, you know, needing to manage our fisheries properly. We have a lot to gain in that if we manage our oceans properly, we can, you know, conserve our resources and have it there for future generations. Use it sustainably.
That's good. And lastly, Rosemary, do you have any advice for any of our viewers who are looking to pursue a career in marine bioscience?
Well, I guess I'd have to say, if it's your passion, you're going to get far. If it's not what you want to do, then it's no use you do it. You need to have a love for marine life to make a success of it, because you need to, at the end of the day, enjoy what you're doing. And if you have that passion and you have that love for it, it's just going to come naturally. You're not going to worry about the maths, like she said. It must just be that desire, that passion within you.
That's good. Thank you so much for joining us today, ladies. It's been such a pleasure having you here.
Thanks.
And yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just sit like that. Wow, the ocean is such an exciting place to research. I suddenly have the urge to go scuba diving. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, take care.